Are Beastmen, Bray-Shamans any good? You've asked me to review the lore of the wilds on this channel, and I'm kind of combining the two here. It was delayed because I tried using lord casters and they kept getting killed. Thanks to well, I'll manage somehow. Please like, subscribe, comment, and consider donating to my Ko-fi page. I've heard it said Ko-fi, but hey, it says buy off to battle Ko-fi. I figured they were related. Let's start with the shaman as an agent. The embedded army buff is scouting, giving you an additional chance of getting magic item drops. The good drops are really good, so you want this too. The general faction boost is spread corruption, so having them present will accelerate a province getting nice and properly corrupted. For permanent army embeds, this is pretty trash, honestly. Winning battles and sacking settlements will get you there a lot faster. This helps, that's it. Steel technology is the anti-settlement option. Some will argue that Beastmen don't need the help and shouldn't bother with this. But to be honest, once you start unlocking some stuff, you really want to get the higher tiers faster. Don't be afraid of doing it once or twice. Wound is your anti-agent action, so there's no chance of a critical success just deleting a hero below level 20. It exists, it's okay. Block Army is your anti-army skill, and hey, it's niche, but it absolutely has its place. Specialist, of course, just reduces the action cost in terms of favor, your gold equivalent. The Bray-Shaman begins with 4,168 health, with a paltry 15 armor and 15% missile resistance. Leadership is an anemic 55, speed is 38, which isn't horrible, melee attack is 30 with an attack interval of 4, max splash damage targets of 5, melee defense 28, and for weapon strength it's 315 with 215 base damage and 95 armor piercing. It's okay, and okay is all. Charge bonus is 38, which is shockingly high, all things considered. Comparing with a starting Amber Wizard for the Empire, HP is 748 higher, speed, melee, defense, and weapon strength are ever so slightly higher, and the charge bonus is 2.5 times that of the Amber Wizard on foot. Mass is 800, same as a Wargor. Well, these are Gors, they get Woodsman, Hide in Forest, and Primal Fury, granting the usual improved version value of plus 5 melee attack, and plus 10% charge bonus and speed. Interesting, but I doubt you want this guy as a melee attacker. How about the Tuskgore Chariot mount? Well, now we're talking. This bumps his armor to 80, his hit points go up slightly, speed goes up to 70, melee attack only goes down to 28, melee defense goes down to 24, and weapon strength dips slightly, but is now slanted toward armor piercing. There's also a bonus versus infantry of 20, which didn't exist before, and a charge bonus of 64. That's before Primal Fury. Also, and this is a big deal, this guarantees Vanguard deployment for your shaman. For that sole reason, you might want to forgo the Razorgore Chariot upgrade. I mean, you get a bit more armor and some more bonuses and damage potential, but losing Vanguard deployment may not feel worth it to you. I think it all depends on how badly it puts your shaman out of step with the rest of your army, if at all. Either way, the Bray-Shaman is not a good stay-and-fight combatant, but the chariots provide mobility, and so long as you can keep him moving, he can and will contribute to fights. Mostly against infantry, obviously. Your shaman is not condemned to be worthless if magic is spent, at least in many situations. Top row of the skills has just bare-bones standard stuff, 15% spell resistance and 10% missile resistance boosts. 15% is better than a lot of factions, but hey, Beastmen are low armor compared to many, even the heroes. So that leaves us the spells. I might split off this section as its own video later, but for now we're playing it straight. So, the lore of the wild. Bestial Surge is the passive. Casting anything grants your entire army plus 15% charge bonus for 9 seconds. Now, the Beastmen tend to have large charge bonuses in general. Casting at the right time can make your forces hit even harder. If you're stuck in a low magic area and can only afford the cheapest spells, this passive might be the most impactful thing your shaman does in the entire battle. Devolve reduces leadership by 8, melee attack by 24, and speed by 25%. If a unit of Black Orcs has 36 melee attack, this drops them below the 2-hit ability of basic Empire archers in melee. Of course, the Black Orcs hit quite a bit harder. There is a truly tiny amount of damage inflicted by the spell. Maybe that prevents regeneration? I didn't stop to test it. Overcasting is notable in that this goes from a single target debuff to an area effect debuff. Bray Scream in its current incarnation is a fan-shaped breath spell that does full damage to armored units. It's relatively short-ranged, but even Black Orcs have to take it seriously. Overcasting doubles the range and adds 50% to the damage. Vile Tide is a ground explosion spell that inflicts only base damage, 0 armor piercing in its base version. Overcast increases damage by 50% and adds 32% armor penetration. So this is the opposite of Bray Scream and simply does more raw damage, making it your go-to spell for damaging lesser armored foes. Like Beastmen! Well, no, that's unlikely. Goblin Laborers? Maybe. Traitor Kin reduces speed by 25% and does direct damage to enemy units within a 35-meter radius circle. It's supposed to be strong against a single opponent or against characters specifically, and weak with blobs. So, that must mean there's a certain number of ticks that are spread between targets within the radius. Fewer targets, more ticks go to the models present. Overcasting doubles the damage done per model hit by a tick, if I'm reading this correctly. In watching a multiplayer video by Turin, he had a comment about how CA would crack down on the spell if it wasn't in the hands of the Beastmen. That means it brings a lot of potential value. Savage Dominion is technically the last spell, but anyway, it's a Cygor summons. A summoned Cygor attacking at range might do a couple of things, but in most cases you'd want one. You're probably better off sending it into melee and dishing out terror up close and personal. To the extent there's a downside, there's an item you can buy for the Beastmen these days which gives you 2 of these summons without any Winds of Magic cost. And as a guy who spent 50 turns as Khazrak stuck in provinces with barely a trace of winds blowing, that's a nice thing. Finally, we have Mantle of Gorok, which basically berserkerizes a unit of your choice. Is that a word? Is that a word? Weapon strength, both types, goes up by 50%, and melee attack jacks up by 40, but armor goes down by 30. Overcasting doubles the duration from 26 seconds to 52. Let me be clear, there is no law that says you can't use Mantle of Gorok on a summoned Cygor. Just saying. That's why I mentioned in this order. So how do we sum this up? The Lore of the Wild has a very strong passive when paired with the Beastmen faction itself. Devolve can be overcast to be an area effect attack debuff and slight speed and leadership debuff, which is still very strong. The damage spells in their current state are very obvious about what targets to use them against. Vile Tide against clan rats, Bray Scream against Black Orcs, Traitor Kin against an isolated group of Stegodons, like an alternative to Final Transmutation. I'll have to see that one in action more. Savage Dominion can turn around the situation by itself because a Cygor does not have Rampage, and has enough potential to hit the hardest targets and do a lot to them. Mantle of Gorok. Oh my word, this thing's powerful. A lot of the time you'll see damage-dealing units that are clumsy attackers. Imagine this on them. Yes, you lose armor, but if you're even thinking of casting this spell, you have a big melee on your hands. Also, if it's Chaos Spawn, hey, they only had 10 to begin with. They won't miss it. The point is, these last 2 spells are strategic tools. The previous ones are purely tactical ones. Nothing is a great mystery, everything gets into a pretty decent rhythm. And the Mantle is a 1%er sort of spell, a buff that makes the rich richer. I suggest casting in a giant engaged with a blob and just laughing. What's this lore missing? An overpowered vortex spell. Am I broken up about that? No. I have chariots for blobbed infantry. I have warhounds and harpies to slip in and eliminate artillery. I suffered through Khazrak with every battle with 20 Winds of Magic total for ages. Like I said, even if this lore was limited to Devolve and the passive, the charge bonus boost is good for this faction. And the whole point of Devolve is to make your thin armored, high charge bonus need to be in melee units charge harder and get hit less. Take care, and have fun dropping a Cygor in the back of an infantry blob. They blobbed up, it's their own fault.